What you have to ask yourself is, what direction am I going? I mean, who you are, who all of us are, our source energy, we have it within us. But the problem is that we walk away from it. It's like you can't walk away from what you are. And what you are has a spark of God in you. And the best way to know that when it isn't ego, these two forces, the Kabbalah teaches us that there are two forces. There's the force of light and there's a force of dark. And it's all the same force. But basically, it's like, what direction is it going? When it is moving towards hatred and bitterness and anger and judgment and resentment, and fear and anxiety and stress and pain and so on. When you are moving in that direction, and I believe this and have written about this myself.
Wayne Dyer was an icon in self-development and spiritual growth. He wrote over 40 books, including an astonishing 21 New York Times bestsellers. His childhood was spent in orphanages and foster homes, but he'd go on to inspire millions and become known as the father of motivation. In this exclusive radio show provided by our partners at Hay House, Wayne Dyer explains how to overcome hardships, use gratitude to grow, and enter a state of bliss. And if you want even more great Hay House content, check out their YouTube channel. We've linked it up down in the description below.
Hello, everybody, and thanks for joining us for the show Wishes Fulfilled with Dr. Wayne Dyer. And we just opened up the phone lines, and Dr. Wayne Dyer is joining us from Maui after a very busy couple of weeks.
Let's grab somebody.
So let's start in Portland and go to Jeannie on line 1, and she's in Portland, Oregon.
Hi, Jeannie.
Hello. Oh,
Hi
hi.
there.
How are you?
I'm great, thanks. How are you, my dear?
I am good. Thank you for taking my call.
You're very welcome.
So I'm in the middle of writing a book, and I guess genre-wise, it's kind of a wellness memoir. And it started out, I was going to write a whole different book really about listening to your intuition, and it still is hugely about that and following it and letting, that inner guidance from above, let that lead your life and how it brings you through life. And, a lot of what you basically, I think, teach, but through my story. And, when I was young, I was like 17 when I started writing letters to God. And each time I wrote, I felt so much better. And then I would take them and just immediately go burn them in the fireplace. And when I was 25, my brother died. And I actually bought a hardcover book and started writing in that and just couldn't bear to throw what I'd written away. So now, 27 years later and 41 journals later, I'm writing this. And I did go down to Hay House and take their workshop. And Jennifer Grace, who I think you might know, is doing a book proposal class. I'm doing that, and I'm following what she's saying to do to get this book proposal done. And it's just, what little gist of the story is, I was married for 26 years, had a really beautiful life. We were kind of the nucleus of our family, our friends, nieces, nephews. And then my husband went in and had an affair with a 27-year-old girl, which was our oldest daughter's age. So we were just broken apart. And if you can imagine a spider web, we were the center. Now there's all this brokenness, and as I'm going and reading through my journals to write my book, because I've actually have a beautiful life now, and it's been 2 years since my divorce, almost to today, I think, which is weird. And I have a really beautiful life, but everyone else, I feel like it's my family, my nieces, my nephews, friends, they're all still back in, they're trying to wrap their head around what even happened in the first place, and there's still all this brokenness, and it's almost like I'm at this point of writing where I need a little relief somehow. And I don't know if you ever wrote something that you're going back and reading and having a lot of awareness and writing it, and it's hard to write. How do you push yourself forward through that? And
I think the way to do that, Jeannie, is to see this 27-year-old person that your husband had an affair with as a gift from God, as a teacher. I did a film called My Greatest Teacher, which was really the story of my relationship and trying to find my father. And it turns out that what he did when I was a young boy and all of his horrible, crass behavior and so on were really the impetus for my being able to reach to higher and higher levels. And while you're reviewing that and looking at that in your writing and so on, instead of coming at it from a place of brokenness, come at it from a place of completeness, and realize that she was sent into your life probably to help you to first of all get to that place of freedom that you feel now, as a result of it. And secondly, to help you to look back upon it as you write about it, not from a place of oh, this is terrible and it shouldn't have happened, which is what so many of your family members are doing, but from a place of gratitude, of being in a space of gratitude, and write from that place of gratitude, and allow the divine guidance that brings to you, to come to you and to flow through you. And you'll watch your writing. Because when I wrote, I can see clearly now, and I really encourage you to read that when it comes out.
Yes, I keep wanting to hear it and read it.
Especially in terms of what you are asking me about right now, because I did a lot of reliving as I went through that, and I began to write from, first I started to write from that place of the pain and the hurtfulness, like when my wife and I separated, or when I found out I had leukemia, or when I was living in an orphanage, and all of the kinds of things that have been benchmarks in my life. And I would find myself just feeling much more spiritual, much more peaceful when I looked at it as gifts rather than.
So going back to the phones, let's see, where should we go? Let's go to Kelly in Kansas City, Missouri on line 3. And Kelly, welcome to the show. You're on with Dr. Wayne Dyer today.
Hello. Thank you.
Hi, Kelly.
For my call.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great, thanks.
Well, I just had a question. I know you've talked about your father and how you forgave him. I've heard the story many times that you told it. What I'm wondering is, I've been to that place actually it's with my husband. And, just things from the past. Okay, we need to get over it, and I really feel like I've forgiven and it's over, and let's move on. And then something will happen maybe a few weeks later. He has a very bad temper sometimes, so, that will come on again, and, the past 15 years of everything that I thought I forgave is all right back in my face, and I just so angry, and he can just really be very sweet and nice, and then turn on a dime, and just, my children are starting to be affected by it. My oldest child is, to the point where she doesn't even want to be around him. And, it's a lot of anger in the house. So.
Yeah. Is there alcohol at all involved?
No, not really. No. I mean, actually, no, not at all. Every once in a while, he'll drink, but nothing, no. But
not this temper thing, was it when you first met, before you were even married, and when you were, in that early stage of, what did you ever see that surface?
Actually, when I look back, yes. I mean, it's always been like this, and I think I had such low self-esteem that I just took it, and I've kind of gotten over that, worked on myself, and it's not quite as, it seems like it has dissipated, but it's a lot of times has now turned on my oldest daughter. So now I know exactly how she feels. I mean, she loves him, but in another way, she just hates him.
Does it ever go beyond just words?
Yeah, not really too physical, but just like pushing maybe once or twice. But just it can be very, very mean, and just even when he's not really angry, just little jabs, and just. Real quickly, what was his relationship, in a sentence or two, what was his relationship like to his father? His father, he really got along good up until recently, and now they still get along, but he drives him crazy. Pretty much everybody drives him crazy. But yeah, his father was, the way he describes him was nothing, very easygoing, like happy, and now there was some alcohol involved with that, but very happy kind of a person. Right. Okay. So what you're looking for, I mean, we only have a few minutes, so it's like what you're looking for is a way to deal with and live with someone who's got a bit of, bipolar is too strong a word because it sounds too technical and too diagnostic and so on, but basically that's what you're talking about. Someone who can just be on an even keel, can be up, can be happy and so on, and then something can trigger it and off he can go. And for some reason, he has come to believe that he has the right to abuse the people around him, especially the people that love him and care the most about him. Is that correct? That is very correct, yes. And he can do that with words and just an occasional pushing and so on, but just launch into one of those kinds of things. So what you need to understand is something I wrote about in my second book for the public, many years, called Pulling Your Own Strings, which I would recommend you read, by the way. It's called Pulling Your Own Strings. And basically my theory on all of this is that you get treated in life
the way you teach people to treat you. So that rather than putting it on him, because if you're waiting for him to change in order for you to be happy, you might just be consigning yourself to the role of victim for the rest of your life. Right. So what you want to do is stop teaching him that it's okay for him to, even if he has his, all the reasons within him, and to be able to, this person is wrong. His own father drives him crazy. His daughter drives him crazy. You drive him crazy, whatever it might be. And he thinks that it's somebody else that is doing all of this to him. He is basically just reacting that way, because I guarantee you that he wouldn't, if I were at your home and a guest in your home, he wouldn't do that to me. He wouldn't yell at me. No. There are lots and lots of places where he absolutely knows how to control himself when he's frustrated. I mean, I'm sure he doesn't do that at work, or not very often, because he wouldn't be at work if he did. So he really has within him the tools to know how to suppress that and to just overlook it. But when it comes to certain people, he just has given himself the right to do that. And the only reason he's got the right to do that is because you've given him permission to do it, for whatever reason, in whatever form that you've given that permission. I know you don't want it. I know that it's not something that you're looking for, but you have taught him that you're willing to treat. So what you want to do is embark on a program to teach him that kind of behavior is no longer tolerable in your life, that you've taught him that you're willing to put up with that in whatever way that you have done it over the years, and same with your daughter, and same with your father-in-law. But now what you're going to do is teach him something new, so that when the next time that he does this and has one of these outbursts and so on, I would talk about it with him when he's not in one of those places, Right. When you're having dinner or whatever, and just say that I have decided that I'm not going to, when you have one of those emotional breakdowns and so on, and start yelling at either me or our children or whomever, that I'm not going to put up with that anymore. It causes me too much pain. And I just want you to know that what I'm going to do is, when I see it surfacing, is I'm going to leave. I'm going to leave the premises. No matter how inconvenient it is, no matter what it is, I'm going to not stay in the presence and allow you to do that. And I'm going to also tell our daughter that that's what she's going to do as well. And even when you see it just beginning to surface, you stand up and you just say, excuse me, I'm just not going to be here right now. And you leave. You lock yourself in the bathroom. You go to the car. You go, drive yourself someplace. You walk out of the house. Whatever it may be, no matter how embarrassing it may be, now you're going to fundamentally change the way that you teach this man to treat you. Ultimately, if he, gets even worse, then you just say, okay, I just don't choose to live under these conditions any longer, and I'm going to get divorced, or I'm going to separate. I'm no longer willing to be the victim of a person who knows how to control these things under certain circumstances, but chooses not to when he's with me and our family. It's a choice that he is making, not that he's got a personality defect that he can't control. Unless he's just going around doing this to strangers and things like that. It doesn't sound like that's the situation.
He's completely the opposite with other people.
Yeah.
Other people that know him wouldn't believe that in a minute. They'd think he's the greatest, nicest guy.
And I might even play this back to him. Because you can go online and this will play all week, this show, and you might even play it for him. This is like I called in, nobody knows your name or anything, and this was the question I had, and this was the response, and I'm going to try, and this is what I'm going to do. Does that sound sensible to you, or something that you could do? Or
Yes, it does. Yeah, it's almost like I needed somebody to say it, because it's kind of what I was thinking in the back of my mind.
Right.
Like, I can't just sit here and listen and do
this. I raised my children this way. I always told them if they would raise their voice, if they'd get frustrated, they'd yell at their mother, they'd yell at me, or whatever it might be. And children do these things, and teenagers do these things, and so on. And if they would ever direct those kinds of comments towards me, I would just put up my hand and I'd say, wait a minute, we'll hold it right there. I have too much respect for myself to allow anybody to talk to me in that fashion. It isn't because I think you're so bad. It's just like, this is such an affront to who I am, that I'm no longer going to allow this to do. And when I would raise my and put my hand up to put a stop to that, it would stop. They know Dad doesn't put up with this because he respects himself. Right. Now, Mom has got to respect herself enough to be willing to do this, because, it's ultimately going to lead down an even worse road. It's going to, as long as he knows that he can get away with this and you're going to stick around, it'll continue. And you can do this very nicely and very quickly. When he starts behaving that way, you just get up, you go get in the car, drive, go for a walk, go into the bathroom if you can't, just lock the door in there and just stay, until it's over with. And you'll teach him very, very quickly that this is not something that I'm willing to tolerate, for one reason and one reason only, I have too much respect for myself to allow anybody to talk disrespectfully to me. Awesome. That's my advice.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that. I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah. And by the way, when you change the atmosphere like that and do that, you will impact him. If you react with anger to yourself and allow, get into arguments and tell him I don't want to do this, and you have, you may have things that just that come out that you don't want to come out. You have to remember that if you don't eliminate darkness in your life, and this is darkness that you're talking about. You don't eliminate darkness by throwing more darkness at it. You eliminate it by throwing light at it, and that's what I'm asking you to do. Throw light at it. Like, teach him I'm not going to allow myself to be placed into this darkness any longer. And it's like the line I've said so many times on this show over the years, that when Jesus would walk into a village, just his presence in the village and nothing more would elevate the consciousness of everyone in the village. You can elevate the consciousness of the people in your home by being a being of love and a being who refuses to allow this kind of behavior, because it's darkness coming at light, and light will always end darkness, but darkness never ends light.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, my dear. God bless you. In Kansas City, what's the temperature there?
Oh, about 12.
About 12?
Maybe, if I'm lucky.
Yeah.
I'm trying not to go out there today, so.
Well, thanks for calling. I love talking to you, and I hope that helps.
Oh, it does immensely.
Yeah.
You don't even know.
Thanks.
So thank you so much.
Thank you, dear. God bless you. Namaste.
And let's see if we can get to a few other people. Some really good calls today.
Good.
Interesting questions. And let's go to Jeanette on line 8, and she's calling from New Jersey.
Hi, Dr. Dyer. I'm so excited to hear your voice today. And we're snowing here in Montclair, New Jersey. We're stuck in the house. The kids are outside enjoying the snow. So I'm so excited we connected this today.
I am too. It's great to hear from you in New Jersey. Listen, I'm going to close all the lanes down to all the bridges in your state. What do you think?
No. Oh boy, that would be that.
That poor guy he's really dealing with it now, isn't he?
Oh, he sure is. They're all coming out now.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But my question is, I just closed my toy store in October, and I've always read all of your books, have seen all your PBS specials, and have been trying to practice more and more what you talk about. And lately, I wanted to ask, how do you know when, you're actually connected to Source? Sometimes I know it's a wonderful, warm feeling, but I wanted to hear your description of it when you do sit and meditate and actually connect.
Well, the truth is you're always connected. What you have to ask yourself is, what direction am I going? I mean, who you are, who all of us are, our source energy, we have it within us. But the problem is that we walk away from it, but it's like you can't walk away from what you are. And what you are, it has a spark of God in you. And the best way to know that when it isn't ego, because ego is the part, it's like there are like these two forces. The Kabbalah teaches us that there are two forces. There's the force of light, and there's a force of dark. And it's all the same force. I mean, but basically, it's like, what direction is it going? When it is moving towards, hatred and bitterness and anger and judgment and resentment and fear and anxiety and stress and pain and so on, when you are moving in that direction, it's still, and I believe this and have written about this myself, that it's still love, but it's moving away from your source. Here's how I look at it. And then there's the other direction when you're moving toward it. So it's like, just picture the hands of a clock, okay? And at the top is there's two hands on the clock, okay? There's the minute hand and the hour hand. And you're born when both of them are right at the 12, right? So you can get a little metaphor of this in your mind. So now the not the hour hand, but the minute hand starts moving in the direction of towards, away from its source. The hour hand stays there. That's your source. And you are now moving. So you go past the 1 and you go past the 2 and you're moving away from your source. So this whole side all the way down to the 6 is each minute that goes by, or each hour, however you want to call it, that goes by, as you hit the 2 and as you hit the 3, 4, 5, this is all movement away from where you originated. You originated from a source of love, of perfect love, a source of what we call oneness, which means there's no opposites. The opposite of joy when you're in the ego state is sadness. But when you're in divine love, there's no opposite of joy. Everything is just joy, but you're not there because you're moving away until you get to the 6. And now you're at the 6. And this is when you're furthest away from your source. This is when you're at the lowest point in your life. This is when you feel that you've fallen as far as you can go. The anger, the hurt, the resentment, the pain is so deep there. And now you have a choice. You can either stay, you've moved away, taken on all this ego, believe that who you are is all the stuff that you own and all of the people that you're mad at, and all the judgments that you have towards others. But now you're at 6. Now you can either stay there because the hand doesn't go backwards. It won't go back to the 5, 4. It doesn't work that way. You have to now start coming the other way. Now you're going to the 7 and the 8, and now you're coming home. And it's when you're on this side, when you're coming home back to where you originated from, you're heading back towards perfect love. And divine love is the kind of love that was your origination point. And this is when you know that you're connected. It's not whether you're there perfect, because as long as you're in a human body, there's going to be some separation. There's going to be opposites. And as long as you're on this planet, there's going to be east and west, and north and south, and up and down, and male and female, and good and bad. All of these dichotomies that we all experience and these paradoxes. But ultimately, when you get back to the 12, when you rejoin it, what happens is you fuse these dichotomies. And you're in a place where there's only love. There's no opposite. And as you start to look out at the world and see people behaving in certain ways, you still only have love, because that's all that you are as you're connecting yourself back. And you'll find yourself slipping when you're at the 8 and when you're at the 9, at the 10. But the closer you get to reuniting yourself with your source of being, the more that you will experience just feelings of bliss and love and kindness and joy. And when you're not, it's probably because you've got thoughts of judgment and criticism and condemnation towards some of God's children or some of the creations that we have or that you run into. And when you get rid of the judgment and the condemnation and the criticism, you're at the 7 and you're coming home. So the question isn't whether or not, you're with your source. The question is, what direction are you moving? Are you moving away from what you originated from? Because when you originated, I just saw something that's gone viral on the internet that my kid sent me. I'm thinking about posting it. I did post it on my Facebook page. It's of a little baby. And this baby is laughing at a dog that somebody's throwing popcorn at this little dog. And the baby's maybe 7 or 8 months old, if that. And it's just laughing. It's just it can't stop laughing. It's like it's at such bliss that it's this laughter. And it's like, William Wordsworth, a very famous English poet, said that our birth is but a sleep and a forgetting. Heaven lies about us in our infancy. And knowing that you're with Source is remembering who you are, remembering where you came from, knowing that you don't, when you came into this world, you had no judgment. You just, you just were here, and you were just accepting, and your mom put her breast in your mouth, and you were just content and happy and gurgling and all of that. And then you took on this ego, and then you starting to believe, and then comparing yourself and trying to be better than other people, trying to accumulate more stuff than other people. All of this is movement away. And now you start coming home, and you become more and more like God, which is really just where you become a being of sharing, because that's what God is. God just offers us everything in the universe, whatever it is, the source that we came from. It's just a source of abundance, and it doesn't ask for anything in return. It just allows anything to be. And the more and more you find yourself doing those things, that's when you're reconnecting, or at least you're heading back to the source. And when you ultimately get back to the 12, this is when you just shed your body, and we call it death, but this is the place that we call immortality. That's what Emily Dickinson called it. She says, because I could not stop for death, he kindly stopped for me. The carriage held but just ourselves and immortality. This is when you start to realize that who you are is this, you're not a human being having a spiritual experience. It's the other way around. You're this infinite spiritual being with a soul who's just having a little temporary human experience. And the closer and closer you get back to the 12, the more you know you're with Source. Long answer, but it's. I hope that made sense.
No, it did. Beautiful. Thank you so much.
Oh, God bless you, dear. Thanks for calling today.
And we have just a minute, but I think time for one quick one.
Okay.
Slide
I
one
didn't
more
realize
person
it was
in.
that close. Okay.
Yeah, just 3 minutes. So let's
3
grab
minutes is
Kent real quick from Toronto. He's on line 2 and has been very patient holding. And Kent, we have just a few minutes, but you're on with Dr. Dyer.
Oh, hi. Thank you.
Hey, Kent.
Hi, how are you? I'm actually not in Toronto. I was in to come and see you in Maui in Divine Love last weekend, which I really enjoyed.
Oh, I'm so glad. What did you think?
It was great. And then, so I'm just staying with some friends in Honolulu. So I'm still enjoying your weather for now, and then I'm going to go back to my 25 soon. But no, I loved it because with, say, Scarlett and Ilibagiza, they were talking about forgiveness, which kind of reminded me to forgive myself and forgive others. And then with Anita and Mary, they were talking more about reminding me who I really am, which is divine love. So, but anyway, it was just great. It was just a great atmosphere. I really enjoyed. Do
you have still the hangover effect of it? Is it? Are you still feeling it? Because it's been over a week for me, and I've just been walking around awash and like I'm in a bowl of soup. That is called love. I mean, everything I look at it really impacted me that way.
Yeah, no, it's just very like a joyful state or a blissful state, or just constantly reminding me who I really am. So not like I just loved the prior caller when you were talking about when I find myself in anger or frustration, to remind myself of compassion and kindness and joyfulness, and it takes me to another place. So and when you said about that chapter 16, I reread Mary's chapter 16, and it's such a great reminder of who we really are. It makes me tingle when I read it, right?
It's called Out of the Blue, and Hay House, I talked to Reed, and who's a president of Hay House, and he's agreed that we're going to publish it. We're going to help her get the first parts of it edited, but it's very, very powerful. It's very seldom that I ever... Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I'm looking forward to that. So I came to see you in San Diego, the taping of I Can See Clearly Now, so I'm looking forward to seeing that. I'll probably see myself in the audience next week.
You will, definitely,
Yeah, that was very good, too. So,
well, good.
And
that
I just
was
wanted to thank you. I had a great weekend. It was very enjoyable, and it was a great feeling. So I just wanted to thank you for putting that on.
I'm so happy that you were there.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. I'm so glad to hear from someone who was actually there, and to see if it had the leftover effect that it's had on me. I'm just seeing love everywhere, even in my sore neck. I'm seeing love. What about that?
I think I got a sore neck too, so I'll have to look for the love in that too. But that's great.
Thanks
I
for
just
calling.
wanted to quickly call and thank you very much for that weekend.
Well, I thank you, and I appreciate it. God bless you, my friend.
Very good. Some great callers, and we will connect next week.
I hope so.
To watch another amazing Wayne Dyer video, check it out right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
Guilt is the opposite of that. Guilt is using up the present moment to be concerned about something that you did or didn't do or should have done or didn't do right, but you're still doing it in the present moment. So worry and guilt, in my book, Your Erroneous Zones, I call these the useless emotion.
Do you know your past? Do you know where it is? It's only where you think. Do you know that every relationship you have, close your eyes, just close your eyes. Just close them. Okay, where's your husband? Where's your wife? Where are your children, your grandchildren? Where's your ex-spouse? They're all in your mind. Open your eyes. Now they're gone. Close your eyes. There they are again. They're just in your mind. You carry your relationships around in your mind. And if your thoughts about your relationships are on what is wrong, what you don't like, what you hate, what they did to you, that will be your experience. And you will materialize or manifest more and more of that pain into your life. If you look at what you love about them and make that the focus of your attention, that will be the nature of your relationship. It's the greatest secret in making any relationship work. It's so simple. Always focus on what you love, if you want that to expand in your life. When you look at someone that you're in a relationship with, look at what you love, because what you think about is what expands. I'll be talking about that a little bit later on, about not giving energy to the things you don't want, because what you think about is what expands. And if what you're thinking about what you don't want, then more of what you don't want will just keep showing up. It's the only way it works. So now I'd suggest to everybody in this room and everybody listening that you take an eraser to all of the wounds of your past and you just send them away. And don't make them your calling card anymore. And bring the presence of God to those problems. And the presence of God is nothing more than a higher, faster energy. It's all energy. Everything is energy. As Einstein said, nothing happens until something moves. And spiritual energy is just energy that moves very fast and at very high frequencies. And problematic energy is very slow and very low frequencies. And when high, fast frequencies are put in the face of low, slow energies, they are nullified. They dissipate. They can't survive. There's a song that they sing at a lot of the churches that I speak in. It says, "Surely the presence of God is in this place." It's a great affirmation. Anytime, or the affirmation from A Course in Miracles, I can choose peace rather than this. But surely the presence of God is in this place. Every time that I have a conflict with one of my children or with any place, I just bring that line to bear on what is I am experiencing right now. I just bring that line to bear. Surely the presence. Because there's no place that God is not. As the little child in India in the 7th century, who was an avatar, who was really God in a human form, and everywhere he would go, people would be healed just by being in his presence, just like St. Francis. He'd be seen in the village, he'd be seen in the valley at the same time. Lights would emanate from his body wherever he would go, and everyone in the village knew that this was a child of God. This was God in their village without the benefit of an ego. This was an egoless being who had shown up in their village, which is what I believe our great spiritual teachers were. Like, there's ways to reach highest levels of consciousness. One of them is to take on an ego and then spend a big hunk of your life seeing if you can shed as much of it as you can. Which has been my path. But there's another one where you just show up and you never take on an ego in the first place. There's only been a handful of those in recorded history. And this little child was one of them. And the elders in the tribe knew that this was God in a human form. And they went up to the little boy and they said to him, trying to bribe him, "I'll give you an orange," they said, "if you can tell me where God is." And the little boy, without hesitating, said, "I'll give you 2 oranges if you can tell me where God isn't." It's one of the very fundamental precepts of this entire program, is that there's only one power in the universe, and that is the power of God. And that whenever we see evil, it's nothing more than love going in the wrong direction, away from its source. And all we have to do is figure out a way to get it to turn around and start returning to its source. Because there's only one power in the universe. And every time we think that we are in something that isn't good, like a problem, like disorder, disharmony, disease, discomfort, what we've done is we've used our mind to create a separation from God. And as long as we are moving away from that source, from that spirit, as long as we're moving opposite of that, those problems continue to manifest. But if we can somehow figure out a way to turn around and move back in that direction, we can eliminate it.
The way to get to this place of inner peace and consequently to experience higher awareness is to shut down the internal frenzy. The Chinese sage Sengchan Tsen gave us the following piece of wisdom. Stop talking, stop thinking, and there is nothing you will not understand. Return to the root and you will find meaning. Look inward, and in a flash you will conquer the apparent and the void. He is counseling us to simply stop talking and stop thinking. This is the third key to the sense of peacefulness that is a part of the way of the sacred quest. I want to make it clear that peace is not the absence of conflict. Peace is the experience of the presence of God. As you learn to shut down your inner dialogue and become more peaceful, you will begin to know the presence of God in your life. That presence will be felt in both your body and your inner world. Beliefs are removed. Belief is replaced with knowing. At different times in my past, both alcohol and other substances were a part of my own life path. Through meditation, I was able to leave alcohol behind, and I have never touched it since.
But with other substances, I believed I could use them when I chose to for an energizing effect beyond anything I had ever experienced. I was able to use them, enjoy increased energy, and leave them alone for long periods of time. But a time came when I knew I was making foolish and non-spiritual choices connected with seeking out these insidious substances. My personal challenge became to rid myself of these insidious habits. I tried reading my way out of it, but I went back. I tried acupuncture, discussions with experts, and herbal cures, but I went back. I was determined that I would no longer play around with any substance, but I went back. Then I had what I call a holy instant, which was for me a divine experience. At 4:05 a.m. on a January morning, I was meditating. In the still quiet of that meditation, the thought of never again using a substance became real. It was my first absolutely direct experience of God. My entire inner screen of awareness became a bright luminescence as I heard a voice say, "You've tried everything else. Why not try me?" I have never in my life known such peace and certainty that God was with me and around me. I felt overwhelmed by the bliss I experienced. I listened to that voice, felt the presence of God, and have not since experienced the slightest desire to go back to any substance. I have debated with myself about putting this very personal story on this tape. That is, my ego self debated with my higher self. But I knew my experience with chemical substances involved helping others to look within instead of outside of themselves for both the excitement and the peace their higher self has for them. If, in my telling this story, one person who experiments with any substance and knows that it is out of control decides to shut down the inner turmoil and seek the help of their loving presence, then it will have been worth it. You needn't have the challenge of getting off drugs to find value applying this third key to higher awareness. It works the same way for every experience you are ready to transcend. Getting to silence and then having God be your personal knowing presence. Getting to silence requires conscious effort on your part. When going within, use the metaphor of the pebble dropping through the various levels of your mind. While the pebble drops, be the witness. Observe compassionately all your chatter and thoughts as you descend to the unified field. When you notice your mind overly crowded with thoughts, practice not focusing on anything just for a few moments. Tell yourself, "My mind is full of the disturbance of chatter and thoughts. I'm going to try to spend 5 minutes without any thoughts bombarding me. I'll dismiss every thought just for a few moments." Use your breath as a means to keep your mind from chattering away ceaselessly. You can do this by focusing your compassionate witness on your breathing. Breathe in deeply, excluding any thoughts as you concentrate on the in-breath. Then exhale slowly and fully with the same concentration. When thoughts appear, as they will, know that they are signaling you to return to mindfulness of your breathing in and out. Your heartbeat can also be used as a focal point for the witness. Return to the steady, rhythmic beat of your heart when you notice thoughts intruding. When you find your thoughts just below the surface in the analyzing level, think of a rose. As you replace the analyzing with the beauty of a rose, you might want to recall this verse by the poet Rabindranath Tagore. "Do not carry a rose to our beloved, because in it is already embodied a message which, unlike our language of words, cannot be analyzed." That is, remember that the habit of analyzing or picking things apart in a judging fashion keeps you from knowing the truth that is at the center of your being. The rose needs no analyzing, as the poet reminds us. It simply is. The same is true of you. At the synthesizing level, when you are feeling the beauty and unity of life, you may discover that you are entering thoughts of pleasure about enjoying this spiritual space. Let go of those thoughts too. The ego enjoys convincing you that you are better than others because you are more spiritual or have deeper understanding. It swims through your consciousness with thoughts like those. When it does, gently send it elsewhere for this time of meditation or prayer. I've always kind of believed that when you come into this world with big dharma, and I obviously have, then what accompanies that is big challenges, big obstacles, big difficulties. Many of you know I spent the first 9 years of my life in a series of foster homes and orphanages. I don't look back on that as anything other than a great opportunity for me to learn self-reliance as a young boy, and then consequently teach people about self-reliance, which is what I've been doing
for 35 years or so, with 30-some books and programs of all sorts and so on. It isn't to say that those 9 years weren't filled with some heartaches and some sadnesses and missing your mommy and things like that. But my mom, who is almost 94 now, in a hospital tonight, having a pacemaker put in on Tuesday. At that age, that's a challenging thing as well. I've been through a lot of the kinds of struggles. I mean, we had nothing when I was younger. Everything I have is what I earned. I look upon that as a great advantage. But it was just the Dharma that I chose, I guess. I've been through divorce twice. I know what that feels like. I know the heartache of breakups and have lived with them and struggled with them and have used it to help me to become a better person, a more compassionate, kinder person who listens more than he talks. I've been through the addiction route in my life and struggled with it on many different levels. From alcohol, which I can proudly say it's been 22 years since it's crossed into my body. Yeah, thank you. But the previous 22 years, I drank enough to make sure that these 22 years were covered. So, and not just alcohol, but drugs as well. I've been down that road and know what it feels like and know the struggle of it and the pain of it.
But Elizabeth Kubler-Ross said, if you shield the mountain from the windstorms, you'll never see the beauty of the carvings. So the storms of our life, if we try to shield ourselves from the storms of our lives, we don't get to see the beauty of the carvings, of what those storms bring for us. And virtually every spiritual advance, not virtually, every spiritual advance that you make in your life, that I've made in my life, has been preceded by a fall of some kind or another. I always give the example of when I was in high school, I was on the track team, and I was the high jumper on the track team, among other things. And the bar would be up here, and we'd get back here, and you run up to this is a metaphor for what I'm speaking about, and you run up to the bar, and you run up and get down as low as you can, as fast as you can, and in the process of getting down low, it would allow you to propel yourself over the bar. So the low points of our life are the times when we should be in a state of gratitude, as hard as that is for us to do, but that's what an enlightened being does. Is they begin to see that, these low points in our life, and I've been through some low points in my life, very dramatic low points. When my wife and I separated 12 years ago, I mean, it was the closest thing that I could call it to a depression for months and months. And out of that depression and out of that deep hurt and sadness about breaking up our family, in a sense, because we're not really broken up, but I was able to write The Power of Intention, which is the next book after Erroneous Zones that just soared and just took off and sells in the millions all around the planet. And it came from a place of compassion. That it's when you are in those low points that you have a tendency to reach out to other people with more compassion and more love and more understanding because of what you're going through yourself. So that, I think, and this is true, I could give 1,000 examples of that, but the whole idea of it is that these low points, the struggles that we go through in our lives are really significant things, and look back at them, and you can do an awful lot of growing from them.
So that when you bring higher energy to the presence of lower and slower energy that we call evil, energy that we call disease, energy that we call depression, you are not only sending the disease and the depression and the despair away, you are converting that very energy into the higher and the faster energy that is being brought to its presence. The same thing is true of hatred. When you bring love to the presence of hatred, hatred not only dissolves, but it turns to love. All you have to do is light a candle
turn on a light and the darkness dissolves. The darkness disappears. But more than that, and this is really crucial for what I'm presenting here this afternoon, the darkness is converted to light. This idea of not dying with your music still in you is really about an awareness that there is some kind of purpose. And that purpose to everything and to your life is not necessarily based upon something that we can figure out with our brain. Like, my purpose is to become an accountant, or my purpose is to find the perfect place to live or the perfect mate. I don't think it's done that way. It's never, to me, an intellectual thing. It's always something that's of the heart. When I ask people to point to themselves, they never point to their brain. They always point to their heart. And Gibran, the Lebanese poet, said that when you're born, your work is placed in your heart. There's something that you feel, and it's very hard to put it into words. In fact, I think it defies words, because words are just more symbols of something that we're trying to express. And it's the feeling that we have in here that I'm here, that I have a heroic mission of some kind, that there's something more to my life than just simply going through the motions and being a commuter and collecting a certain amount of stuff. So to me, not dying with your music still in you is what Maslow called the top of the pyramid. And you remember the pyramid of the self-actualization that begins with the baseline being the longest part, but the baseline is just taking care of basic needs. Like, you learn how to handle and provide for yourself. So you have to, at the very base of this pyramid, you have to feed yourself. And you have to have your needs for water, and your needs for food, and your needs for shelter as you move up this. And then your needs for sort of like companionship and ultimately a need to feel a sense of belonging, a need to feel loved as you begin to move up this pyramid until you get to the very top. And at the very top of this pyramid, there's just a tiny little space up there. And this tiny little space at the top of the pyramid is what we call purpose, where you're living your life as if why you're here is really clear to you. A sense of purpose is not that I'm doing what I was told I was supposed to do, that was programmed into me by somebody in the sky before I showed up here, but that I feel as if why I'm here is being actualized. And when people ask me about how do I get to that place of purpose in my life, I always remind them that your life is like what Joel Goldsmith called it, a parenthesis in eternity. So who you are, Carl Jung referred over and over again to the part of us that is eternal, the infinite part of us. He said the telling question of a person's life is their relationship to the infinite. And until you have that relationship with the infinite, you will not know anything about purpose. So that you almost have to learn how to step outside of yourself and begin to witness yourself from the perspective of who you are as not being this thing that you're observing. You go to the observer, and then you even get to watch the observer. And that's when it starts to get a little bit complicated. But as the observer, or as the witness to the observer, you're sort of watching and noticing. But the sense of purpose comes from being that witness rather than what you are witnessing. And when you get to that place in your life, you begin to realize that who you are in this physical world, this name that you've been given and this body that you are occupying, is nothing more than a parenthesis in something called eternity. It opens parentheses at the moment of your conception. It closes parentheses at the moment of your death. But when you come into this parentheses, when you show up here, you show up with nothing, with no thing. And you go from nowhere, 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 And in one instant, conception, you're in now here. Nowhere. It's all the same. It's just a little question of spacing. Nowhere, now here. So now you're in now here. Hopefully, all of you listening are in now here. There may be some of you listening that are not now here. But while you're in now here, you have some kind of an awareness that you're going nowhere. You're going back to nowhere. So it's nowhere, open parentheses, now here, back to nowhere. It's all one. But there's something different about now here than nowhere. At least we think there is, but we don't have any real confirmation about that unless you're Brian Weiss. Or you know about past lives or future lives and so on. Now, one of the great teachers in my life, Carlos Castaneda, whom I've referred to on many occasions, one of the things that he says is that the problem with humanity living at ordinary levels of awareness is that we are all beings who are going to die, but we act as if we're not. So that we don't really ever come in contact with our immortality or our infinity at all, because we are acting as if this body is all that there is and it's going to live forever. When in fact, there's an awareness in there that we're all going nowhere.